He was just an average guy until the school's most perfect girl made him her personal slave. But it gets weirder. She controls time by removing her underwear. Yeah, you heard that right, and this is only the beginning. The story begins by introducing Takamine, a girl who's extremely popular throughout her school. She excels at everything, academics, sports, and more. If the school were to be ranked, she would easily come out as number 1. This information is shared by a boy named Shirota Koshi. He's just an average student. While Takamine is adored by everyone in the class, Shirota is the complete opposite. Hardly anyone notices him, apart from a few friends. All of this is being narrated from Shirota's point of view. He mentions that the only thing he shares in common with Takamine is that they've been classmates since the beginning. Despite that, he had never talked to her. But everything changed one day. We go back in time, where Shirota finds himself in a situation where he is somehow above Takamine. It feels like a dream to him. Standing in front of him is what he describes as an angel. Even more surprisingly, Takamine is smiling at him. The story then moves to how such a strange situation even came to be, how Shirota and Takamine got so close. It's also revealed that Takamine is the student council president. Later, Shirota is shown sitting in the school's storeroom. He's clearly nervous because the math exam is coming up and he hasn't prepared at all. Suddenly, Takamine enters the storeroom. Without realizing Shirota is there, she starts changing her clothes. Shirota hides, trying to process what's happening. The most beautiful girl in the entire school is changing in front of him. He covers his eyes in panic, but clearly, he's tempted to peek. Unable to resist, he glances at her. Afterward, he's overwhelmed by what he just saw and tries to shake the thought from his mind. Back in class, he can't stop thinking about it and keeps glancing at Takamine. The teacher walks in to announce the exam results. Shirota receives 52 marks, which is a surprisingly good result for him. He feels happy. Then it's Takamine's turn. The teacher announces she didn't get a full score this time. She got 98. The class erupts in murmurs, wondering how 2 marks got deducted. For everyone, this seems like a massive deal. Takamine apologizes to the teacher and begins doing something unexpected. Shirota watches her, stunned. Their eyes meet. A butterfly is shown flying in slow motion, and a clock is displayed ticking. Suddenly, the scene jumps to the moment when Shirota receives his mark sheet again. He starts questioning everything, wondering if what he just experienced was all a dream. He checks his results and confirms he did get 52 marks. He looks over to see how many marks Takamine got and expects 98, but the teacher says she scored a perfect 100. Shirota is left confused, unable to understand if it was all real or not. Despite the confusion, he feels it was a good day. He got decent marks and even saw Takamine changing clothes. Later, Shirota visits the student council room to talk to Takamine. He asks her if she really got 98 marks in math. This shocks Takamine. She wonders how Shirota knows that and asks if he has told anyone else about it. After the test, Takamine seemed furious and stormed toward Shirota. Naturally, Shirota was terrified, his whole body trembling with anxiety. But to his surprise, Takamine wasn't actually angry about the test. She simply wanted to confront him about something. She suspected that Shirota had seen her changing clothes in the storeroom and wanted the truth. Shirota was frozen in fear. Then suddenly, the tension broke when Takamine revealed she was only joking, trying to scare him for fun. She invited him to sit and talk for a bit, even asking if he wanted some water. Nervously, Shirota accepted, still shaken by the situation and overwhelmed by the rare opportunity to spend time with her. In his nervousness, his hands fumbled and he accidentally spilled the water. Thankfully, the spill didn't land on Takamine. She stepped aside just in time. She teased him for the clumsiness, implying he might have had some sneaky motive to get her wet just so he could watch her change again. Despite staying dry, Takamine began undressing. Shirota, in complete panic, couldn't comprehend what was happening. But just as the situation reached its peak, time seemed to rewind. A butterfly flew across the scene toward a clock, and the entire moment reset. This time, when Shirota spilled the water, it actually landed on Takamine. Now wet, she said she needed to change. But instead of asking him to leave, she simply turned around and told him to look away. She even handed him her wet clothes and asked him to clean them. Shirota, still confused and scared, tried his best to help, but while doing so, Takamine suddenly kicked him hard. She accused him of touching her inappropriately, even though he had just been following her instructions. After that, she began talking about the water and how she'd already touched it earlier. This led her to believe something strange was happening with time and memory. According to her, under normal circumstances, people would forget everything after a time reset. But Shirota was remembering everything. She concluded that there must be something unique about him. Either he wasn't affected by the resets, or something else was going on entirely. She began to explain more about her ability, an unusual power she'd possessed since 5th grade. Whenever she made a mistake, her power would activate, allowing time to shift between past and future moments. She bragged about being exceptional, claiming that her drive to be number one is what earned her the power in the first place. Shirota, meanwhile, was overwhelmed and confused by everything, especially her frequent self-praise. But then came the most bizarre revelation of all. Takamine revealed that in order to activate her ability, she had to remove her underwear. It wasn't something she liked sharing, but she insisted it was important. Because of this, she always carried extra underwear with her, just in case. At this point, Takamine begins explaining that Shirota has not only discovered her ability, but also seems capable of using it himself. Since he doesn't forget anything after a time reset, she makes a bold decision. From now on, she will make him her personal slave. Shirota is absolutely shocked by this sudden declaration, but to be honest, there wasn't really anything too troubling about becoming her slave. He even admits, perhaps with a little guilt, that the idea didn't sound all that bad, and to the viewers, the narrator requests not to judge him too harshly in the comments. Still, Shirota declines her offer, saying he needs to go home and apologizes. As he turns to leave, Takamine urges him to think it through. She reminds him that this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and walking away from it might be a big mistake. Even though Shirota agrees the opportunity sounds tempting, he still chooses to walk away. But as he tries to leave, Takamine suddenly grabs his hand, pulling him back. Because of this, Shirota ends up falling right on top of her. This finally brings us back to the scene shown at the very beginning, where Shirota was on top of Takamine. Naturally, he panics, but Takamine calmly tells him there's no need to be afraid. He can do whatever he wants if he agrees to become her slave. It was her way of offering a reward. Shirota starts feeling strangely happy in that moment. After all, things like this don't just happen for free. But before the situation could go any further, Takamine suddenly screams. The classroom door bursts open and several students rush in. The boys immediately grab Shirota, and the girls, without a second thought, call the police, claiming that their class president is being harassed. To make things worse, Takamine pretends to be the victim. She accuses Shirota of bothering her and starts saying all sorts of things that make him look guilty. It's a total setup, but the smirk on her face says it all. She planned this from the start. Her goal was to trap Shirota, and he had walked right into it. Now the police have arrived, and Shirota feels like his life is over. Just as everything seems lost, Takamine gives him one last chance. She offers him a choice. To accept her offer and still become her slave, Shirota realizes he has no other option left. He begs for forgiveness, asking Takamine to reconsider. She checks to make sure he's serious, and when she sees his desperate expression, she believes him. And then, just like before, a butterfly appears, the alarm rings, and the clock is shown. Time resets once again. We're brought back to the moment where Shirota and Takamine were having a conversation, but this time, everything is different. Shirota has officially become Takamine's slave, but instead of being happy, he regrets everything. He wishes he had just gone home instead of visiting the student council room. If he had done that, none of this would have happened. Soon, the two of them get into an argument. Takamine warns him that challenging her is a mistake. He already knows the consequences. Shirota quickly apologizes again. Then, Takamine tells him that it's time for his first job. She instructs him to put a collar on her. Hearing this, Shirota panics, saying he doesn't want to do it. But in Takamina's world, the word no doesn't exist. She tells him to check the bag. He'll find the collar there. Eventually, Shirota does what he's told and puts the collar on her. Takamine then points out that he always closes his eyes during these moments. She teases him, reminding him that he also shut his eyes last time. But she ends by saying that he actually looks pretty cute when he's flustered. Next day, inside the student council president's office, where Takumi and Shirota are alone together. They're sitting pretty close, almost too close. Takumi is holding Shirota's hand and looking into his eyes, telling him, "You're my servant now. You can do whatever you want." Shirota's heart was racing like crazy. Takamine was staring at him with such intensity and affection, it made the moment even more nerve-wracking. But just when it felt like something major was about to happen, a bunch of police officers stormed in and surrounded them. They immediately grabbed Shirota again, and right then Takamine changed completely, putting on a totally composed and innocent act. She even smiled sweetly as if nothing was going on. And then Shirota wakes up. It was all just a dream. Suddenly, he gets a message on his phone from Takumi. It simply says, "Don't be late for school." Seeing her message and photo, Shirota completely freaks out, blushing and panicking all over again. Next, we see him walking to school. He looks super anxious, still haunted by last night's dream. As he walks, Takamine suddenly appears behind him. Everyone around greets her with cheerful good mornings, and she returns the greetings kindly, smiling at everyone. Shirota, meanwhile, is struggling to keep calm. He's staring at Takamine, thinking to himself, "The girl I thought I had feelings for. She turned out to be my nightmare in one night." He's deep in thought when suddenly Takamine walks up to talk to him. Everyone around is shocked. How could someone like Takamine be casually approaching Shirota? Shirota notices the attention, and before he can say anything, Takamine leans in and whispers in his ear, telling him to come to the student council room. In the next scene, Shirota's in the council room with her. He asks what she wants, and Takamine casually replies that she doesn't have any specific work for him. Now that they're partners, she says, they should get to know each other better. Shirota, flustered and frustrated, starts yelling that they're not partners. She forced him into this. It feels more like he's her slave than anything else. But then Takamine hands him a bag. Curious, Shirota opens it and is shocked to see it's full of her underwear. She explains, completely serious, that he's now in charge of managing her wardrobe. Whenever she needs them, he'll be the one to bring them to her. Shirota is stunned, asking if he really has to carry them around all the time. Takamine explains further, when she activates her ability, he'll need to be ready to help her change on the spot. Shirota blurts out, "Isn't that totally insane?" But she calmly reassures him, saying she'll only use the ability once or twice during class. If there's an emergency though, she might use it any time. But still, he shouldn't worry too much. They continue talking, and Takamine reminds him in a serious tone, if he doesn't do his job properly, he knows what'll happen. That makes Shirota flash back to when the police drag him away. It terrifies him. He tells her not to worry, he'll do everything just right. Takamine, pleased, says that if he works hard, he'll get rewarded too. Then suddenly she pushes him down and sits on top of him. Shirota completely panics. Eyes shut tight, he pleads, "Please, don't call the police again. I'll do everything you say. Just don't scare me like that." Takamine, in a rare moment of softness, tells him not to worry. She admits that even she finds these situations kind of embarrassing, but when Shirota is around, somehow it doesn't feel that bad. That completely surprises Shirota, and he promises he won't disappoint her. He quickly gets up and says he needs to head to class. Takamine nods and reminds him to return the bag after school. Don't even think about taking it home. Shirota says he understands and heads out. As he leaves, Takamine smiles to herself, watching him go. Then we cut to the classroom where the teacher is reading out a poem. They ask the class to explain it. Shirota, still thinking about Takamine, figures she'll probably nail it effortlessly. Sure enough, Takamine starts explaining the poem, and her voice is so soft and elegant that the other students start whispering to each other. Her voice is seriously beautiful. After that, Shirota looks at her and can't help but think, she's not just beautiful, she's insanely smart too. Honestly, she's pretty much perfect. She doesn't even need to rely on her abilities. Just then, a strong wind suddenly blows through the classroom. Takamine slowly rises from her seat and says to herself, "I knew it. I knew I'd have to do this again. It's time to use my ability once more." Shirote is surprised and thinks, but she already recited a poem that was absolutely flawless. Takamine then starts taking off her jacket, casually saying, "Yeah, it was perfect, but it could have been even better." Suddenly, we see butterflies fluttering across the scene, followed by the alarm clock. Time rewinds again, bringing us back to that same moment when the teacher asked the class, "Who wants to explain this?" Takamine steps forward once more and begins reciting the poem again, but this time, it's on a completely different level. It's like every single word is alive. Every student in the class feels like they're inside the poem, as if they're part of the story itself. By the time the poem ends, Shirote doesn't even realize it. The whole class breaks into loud applause, stunned by what they just experienced. Shirote thinks to himself, "What kind of girl is this? How can someone be so perfect?" Takamine turns to him with a sweet smile, and even she's thinking, that second time, it was better than the first. She was trying to say, yeah, it was perfect, but it wasn't the best I could do. Realizing this, Shirote is shocked. He begins wondering, wait, does that mean she can keep doing this, using her ability again and again like that? Right then, Takamine throws a piece of paper at him and says casually, "All right, now get back to your work." Shirote snaps out of his thoughts. He had completely forgotten about the task he was supposed to be doing. How the heck am I supposed to put that belt on her, in front of the whole class? He's freaking out, totally unsure about what to do next. Takamine keeps pointing at him from her seat, motioning for him to hurry up. She's even starting to act all playful and mischievous. Then, she loudly asks, "Hey Shiro, can you hand me the eraser?" He glances over and sees the eraser on the floor near her feet. As he walks toward her, he thinks again, wow, Takamine really is a genius. And he realizes, I have no other choice. I have to do this. If I mess up, she might end up in jail again. His brain is racing, but he finally makes up his mind. Pretending to pick up the eraser, he secretly grabs the belt from his pocket and heads toward her. Takamine flashes a soft smile. She's clearly ready for it. As Shirote kneels down to put the belt on her, his face goes red with embarrassment, but somehow he manages to do it. Finally, it's done. He returns to his seat, heart pounding in his chest. He's thinking, I actually did it. I really did it. He's grinning to himself, feeling proud and relieved. Then the teacher starts handing out the answer sheets and says, I'll call your names one by one. Come up to collect your sheet. Shiro gulps and thinks, here we go again. Another long, painful day. Right at that moment, Shirote glanced at Takamine and realized something horrifying. He hadn't tied her ribbon properly. A wave of panic washed over him as he imagined the worst. If the teacher called Takamine up and she walked, the ribbon could come undone and fall off in front of the entire class. The thought alone made him freeze. Everyone would be shocked, and Takamine would be humiliated. Takamine, on the other hand, turned toward Shirote with teary eyes. Her expression asked the unspoken question, why did he let this happen? Shirote's thoughts were spiraling. He remembered the time when the police officer had nearly caught him, and it hit him that if anything went wrong again, he might get into serious trouble. He desperately needed to fix the situation before it exploded. His mind went blank at first, but then an idea struck. When the teacher called for Takamine's paper, Shirote decided that he would go up instead of her. That way, she wouldn't have to get up and risk the ribbon slipping. He also recalled something Takamine once told him, that if anyone else saw her using her ability, it made her feel embarrassed. But when he was the one watching, she felt fine. The moment Takamine's name was called, Shirote immediately stood up and walked over to the teacher. The teacher seemed confused at first, but then casually handed him both his and Takamine's answer sheets, thinking it was no big deal. Seeing all this, Takamine couldn't help but smile. When Shirote returned, she silently thanked him. Shirote responded without hesitation, saying there was no need for thanks. In his mind, he was just doing what he was supposed to. He considered himself her servant, after all. As he turned to walk away, Takamine suddenly grabbed his leg, stopping him. She reminded him that his job wasn't done yet. The ribbon still needed to be fixed properly. Shirot panicked, knowing they were in the middle of a classroom full of students. He couldn't believe she was asking him to do that in front of everyone. But Takamine calmly pointed out that he didn't have any other option. So, with no choice left, Shirot bent down and carefully adjusted the ribbon. Takamine's face began to twist into an awkward and flustered expression. Shirot asked if she was okay or if something had gone wrong, but she stayed silent, cheeks red with embarrassment. Later, in the student council room, Shirot finally let out his frustration. He told her not to make him do stuff like that again. Takamine simply said that she had been testing him, just to see how he would react in a tough situation. Then, she genuinely apologized and admitted that she trusted him completely. She believed he would never do anything wrong. Still curious, Takamine asked why he had tried to protect her like that. Why had he gone out of his way to help? Why did he fix the ribbon so properly, even in that awkward situation? Shirot didn't answer at first. Takamine began wondering if it had something to do with what she had told him earlier, that she never wanted anyone else to see her underwear. Was that the reason he had rushed to protect her? Internally, Shirot was freaking out, wondering how she figured it out. But on the outside, he stayed calm and said nothing, pretending he had no clue. He just said he helped her because he didn't want to get dragged into trouble with the police again. Takamine didn't completely believe him, but she appreciated his effort nonetheless. She thanked him sincerely and said that if he was trying to make her happy, then she was genuinely grateful. At that moment, her face looked adorably cute, and with that sweet expression, the episode came to an end.